Well, friends, who really is Kamala Harris? Many call her the First Lady on her way to the political summit, but what lies behind this famous name? She almost became president, but what exactly is behind that cunning smile? You think you know Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States, a trailblazer, the first woman of color to hold such a powerful position. But what if we told you there's more behind the scenes? Hidden secrets, shocking facts, and incredible scandals that will change your perception of the second most powerful person in the country. Stay with us to uncover the secrets that mainstream media stays silent about. The daughter of immigrants. Kamala Devi Harris was born into a well-educated family in Oakland, California, on October 20, 1964, during a time of racial unrest in the United States. Her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, was a biologist who emigrated to the United States from India to study at the prestigious University of California, Berkeley. Kamala's father, Donald Harris, moved to California from Jamaica in 1961 to study economics at the University of California, Berkeley, and later became a professor at Stanford, another leading U.S. university. They met as civil rights activists in Berkeley, which is known for its political activism. Before Kamala's parents divorced, they had a second daughter, Maya. As a child, Kamala Harris took a bus to school in a predominantly white neighborhood in California and later moved with her mother and sister to the Canadian city of Quebec. Harris returned to the United States to study at Howard University in Washington, D.C., a historically black institution, where she majored in political science and economics. She then went on to study law at the University of California, graduating in 1989. Harris quickly built a strong reputation within California's legal community, eventually winning the 2003 election to become San Francisco's district attorney. A year later, she faced backlash from law enforcement when she refused to seek the death penalty for a gang member accused of killing a police officer. During her 7 years as San Francisco's district attorney, from 2004 to 2011, Harris demonstrated a tough stance on crime, increasing convictions for serious offenses and drug-related crimes. It was partly her achievements in fighting crime that helped her win the 2010 election and become California's Attorney General, overseeing the work of approximately 5,000 lawyers. One of her Democratic opponents, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, criticized Harris for the number of people imprisoned for marijuana offenses during her tenure as head of California's legal system, despite Harris admitting she had tried marijuana herself. Since then, recreational marijuana, non-medical use, has been legalized in California. Harris later supported the decriminalization of cannabis, which became a key part of calls for nationwide criminal justice reform. Harris's ratings. Kamala Harris often speaks about her humble beginnings, but few know the dark details behind her rise to power. For years, there have been rumors about her ties to mysterious political figures in California. Could it be that her political career was carefully orchestrated by a secret network of elites? Some insiders claim that Harris isn't just lucky, she was chosen. Reuters, citing sources, reported that Kamala Harris is Democratic leaders in all 50 states. Just hours after Joe Biden dropped out of the race, the Democratic Party's fundraising platform, ActBlue, announced that it had already raised $46.7 million in donations for Harris's presidential campaign. Biden had around $100 million for his campaign. She has a significant base of supporters within the party. But again, there are also people in the party who are concerned about her low polling numbers. So she is not an undisputed candidate. Earlier, on July 18th, a poll by The Economist/YouGov showed that 79% of Democrats would support Harris if Biden decided not to run. A poll by the Associated Press and Orsi Center for Public Affairs Research found that about 6 in 10 Democrats believe she would be a good president. As of July 19th, Star Sports rated Biden's chances of winning the election at 12-1, while Harris's odds stood at 7-2. A CNN poll after the June 28 Biden-Trump debate showed that Harris was trailing Trump by 2%, while Biden was behind by 6%. Donald Trump has already stated that he believes it would be easier for him to defeat Kamala Harris than Joe Biden. Tough questions. Harris was elected to the U.S. Senate in November 2016, becoming the second black woman in U.S. history to secure a seat in the upper chamber of Congress. She gained attention for her pointed questions in the Senate directed at members of President Donald Trump's cabinet, particularly towards Attorney General Jeff Sessions and William Barr, as well as Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Republicans attempted to brand Harris as a radical member of the Democratic Party in an effort to sway more moderate supporters of the party and independents. They asserted, without any evidence, that Harris, not Biden, would effectively be in charge in the White House, while also questioning Biden's viability, again, without any proof. However, it would not be surprising if Harris were able to secure her party's nomination for the presidency in 2024, should Biden decide not to run for re-election. Since the 1950s, 5 former vice presidents have successfully gained their party's nomination, including Richard Nixon, Walter Mondale, George Bush, Al Gore, and Joe Biden. Nixon, Bush, and Biden went on to win their presidential races. How the politician met her husband. Kamala Harris is married to attorney Douglas Emhoff. They met in 2013 on a blind date set up by a mutual friend. Although Harris had gathered some information about her future husband before their meeting, they had even exchanged a few letters. The day after their first date, Emhoff sent Kamala a letter listing potential wedding dates. He mentioned that he was no longer young enough to play games and that he really liked her. Douglas was previously married and has 2 children, Cole and Ella. Kamala became their stepmother, although the family replaced that term with Mamala. She has also admitted that the kids have been a source of inspiration for her. Kamala does not have any children of her own. Recently, a clip from a 2021 interview with Senator J.D. Vance and controversial journalist Tucker Carlson went viral. In it, Vance claimed that women without children should not define America's future, as they lack direct involvement. He referred to them as unhappy ladies with cats. At that time, Vance included Kamala Harris in this list. Actress Jennifer Aniston voiced her support for Harris and other women. She stated that she prays for Vance's daughter to someday conceive and carry a child. But back to the relationship between Harris and Emhoff. After a year of dating, he made a modest proposal to his beloved, which reflected the nature of their wedding. Douglas has been a strong support and pillar for Kamala in her political career. Their main secret is planning. They feel more like partners who can resolve any issues through conversation. She was compared to Barack Obama, and she didn't like it. Harris has been referred to as the female version of Obama for years, dating back to her time as a prosecutor in San Francisco. One thing that really irritates her is being seen as a demographic stereotype, said Sean Clegg, her advisor, in an interview with the New York Times. She was a prosecutor. They have different life experiences. She's told us, "Don't define me by what a man did." Former President Barack Obama himself welcomed Biden's choice. "I've known Senator Harris for a long time. She is more than ready for this job. Throughout her career, she has defended our Constitution and fought for people who need justice. This is a good day for our country," he wrote on Twitter. Biden and Harris in the elections. But Kamala's rise didn't stop there. According to information from our sources, she is involved in behind-the-scenes power struggles with President Biden himself. Could these tense relations be more than just rumors? According to our anonymous insiders, Harris has already set her sights on the presidential seat, and it may happen sooner than we think. Is she preparing to seize the Oval Office? What we found will surprise you. Harris and Biden share a long-standing friendship. She served as California's Attorney General at the same time Biden's late son, Beau, was Attorney General of Delaware. She worked closely with Beau. "I watched as they took on big banks, helped workers, and defended women and children from violence," Biden wrote on Twitter on Tuesday. "I was proud of them then, and I am proud that she is my running mate today." Harris, who has criticized Biden for his political decisions, has praised his human qualities, particularly highlighting his empathy and understanding of people. In fact, they had already come to terms with the idea that Trump would win the election, just as Trump himself had gotten used to it. In fact, at the peak of the campaign, Joe Biden refused to continue running. On July 21, the sitting president of the United States officially withdrew his candidacy for the 2024 presidential election. Instead, he endorsed Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate. Today I want to give my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be our party's nominee this year. Democrats, it's time to unite and defeat Trump. Let's do this, Biden stated. Following this, Kamala Harris herself said she intended to run and win the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Asterisk. It is a great honor for me to receive the president's support, and I intend to earn and win this nomination. Over the past year, I have traveled the country, talking to Americans about the clear choice in this important election. And that is what I will continue to do in the coming days and weeks. I will do everything I can to unite the Democratic Party and our nation to defeat Donald Trump. Asterisk. Harris emphasized. It later became known that the chairs of the Democratic Party in all states supported Vice President Kamala Harris as the new candidate for the party in the upcoming presidential election. After the president's announcement, our members immediately gathered to support a candidate who has a track record of winning tough races and who is a leader on issues that matter to Americans: freedom, preventing gun violence, protecting the climate, justice reform, and economic recovery, said Ken Martin, president of the Association of State Democratic Committees, referring to the sitting vice president. According to a poll by the Associated Press, about 2,700 delegates are ready to vote for Harris. A total of 1,976 delegate votes are needed for the presidential nomination. The voting will take place from August 1st to 7th. Therefore, by August 7th, the Democratic Party will most likely announce the nomination of Vice President Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate. Asterisk. The main mission. 2 months ago, following Biden's poor performance in the televised debates, panic set in among Democrats. Although Harris was seen as the most logical choice to replace the aging head of the White House, her tenure as vice president had not been particularly noteworthy, so leading party members and donors preferred to wait for the convention to choose a candidate. However, over the month, Harris consolidated support among Democratic Party sympathizers, raised record amounts for her campaign, and caught up to and surpassed Trump in polls, erasing all doubts. I wasn't prepared for how quickly the public would embrace her so overwhelmingly, noted Democratic strategist Jamal Simmons, who previously led the vice president's communications team. The pent-up enthusiasm was released and turned out to be greater than I thought. https://thehill.com/homenews/campaigns/4840777-Kamala-Harris-doubts-disappear. The phenomenon of Harris's candidacy is like something when a person has survived death, suddenly a new understanding of life emerges, commented Democratic consultant Fernand Amandi. Clearly, the main factor in Harris's success is not her achievements in office or personal qualities, but rather her role as the anti-Trump that she inadvertently embodies. A large portion of Americans, including Republicans, do not support the former president, while believing that Biden is not fit to be his opposite due to age and weakness. Biden's exit and the entrance of a relatively young 59-year-old into the campaign became a lifeline for many. Democrats felt a surge of energy and went into battle. Panic among Trump supporters spread. Harris adopted a quite successful strategy, presenting herself as a prosecutor, a fighter against the criminal world and violence against women, who stands in opposition to criminals and abusers. I know the type of Donald Trump. This phrase has already become a meme. She is banking on the middle class, promising tax cuts for them while simultaneously increasing pressure on companies that inflate prices and profit from the earnings. She also promises to resist any attempts to impose import tariffs, particularly on Chinese goods, as this also affects domestic prices. The list of good deeds that Harris promises is quite extensive, Some of them she announced at the convention, from abortion rights and lowering the cost of medication to increasing job opportunities, affordable health insurance, and cheaper housing. Additionally, she has almost completely taken over the immigration theme traditionally defended by Republicans, who advocate for tough measures against illegal immigrants at the Mexican border. Democrats never tire of repeating that it was Trump supporters who prevented the Senate from passing a bipartisan bill aimed at addressing the influx of migrants from the South. Harris spoke about this at the convention, promising to make it law if she wins. Downsides, real and generated. Trump has accused Harris of a reluctance to engage with the media. Indeed, since the beginning of her campaign, she has not given a single comprehensive interview or press conference, which, according to the Republican candidate, indicates her incompetence and lack of intelligence. Maybe that's true, but who judges? Similarly paradoxical are the accusations from Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, who calls the Democrat a chameleon for trying to appear relatable to everyone. Yet Vance himself compared the former president to Hitler long before he received Trump's invitation to become his running mate, and considered him a disaster for America. However, it seems that Harris is indeed afraid of the press, which is quite strange for a former Attorney General of California, whose primary task was to eloquently prove the guilt of criminals. Of course, her speech at the convention was a pinnacle of eloquence, but it was prepared in advance and by the efforts of a whole team. Another apparent weakness of the candidate is her stance on the conflict in the Middle East. Among Democrats, there are many supporters of Palestine and even defenders of Hamas. To appease them, both Biden and Harris make rather controversial statements that could be viewed as anti-Israel. However, in her convention speech, the Israeli-Palestinian issue was presented in a way acceptable to both camps, as much as possible. According to Harris, she will advocate for Israel's right to self-defense, but the bloodshed in Gaza is devastating and unhinged, and now is the time for a hostage release agreement and a ceasefire. Additionally, her economic program raises many questions, with Republicans comparing it to socialist policies in Cuba and Venezuela. Trump has been particularly critical of her idea of a federal ban on price gouging for mass consumers. Trump labeled Harris a communist on social media, presumably hoping to provoke voter animosity. However, he illustrated his characterization with a fake, AI-generated photo in which the vice president supposedly appears at a communist event. https://thehill.com/homonews/campaigns/4834669-trump-fake-photo-harris-communist. Harris criticized Biden for supporting segregation, but later endorsed his candidacy. Harris arrived in Washington 4 years ago as a senator from California. During the party primaries, she was a frontrunner in the early stages but exited with only 2% of the vote. It was this weak performance in the primaries that caught the attention of President Donald Trump, who criticized Biden's choice. During the party debates in June 2019, she criticized Biden for his warm remarks about his working relationships with legislators who supported segregation. She attacked him for opposing the policy of busing school children to integrate racially segregated schools in the 1970s. Despite her harsh criticism of Biden, she supported his candidacy. 3 months after exiting the race, Harris posted a video on Twitter endorsing Biden. "I believe in Joe, and I will do everything in my power to help elect him as the next president of the United States," she wrote. Where do the rumors that Kamala Harris is a communist come from? In Latino immigrant communities in the U.S., the question is spreading: is Kamala Harris really a communist? Since the current vice president became a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination, numerous misleading claims have swirled around her, alleging that she is a socialist or a communist. This is reported by Factchequedo, the largest Spanish-language publication in the U.S. that specializes in fact-checking. Experts note that these claims arise amidst genuine concerns from voters who have fled repression from countries like Cuba or Venezuela. In one widely circulated video on social media, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, her running mate for vice president, supposedly posed for a selfie in front of a sign reading, "Revolutionary Communists of America," a far-right group. The video turned out to be fake. The background with the sign was created by a group of supporters of Republican candidate Donald Trump known as the Dilly Meme Team. The original post garnered 420,000 views, but it was actively shared in Spanish-language social media and repeated even offline. "This doubt is everywhere. Is this person a communist?" says Evelyn Perez-Verdia, a cultural scholar from South Florida. She was listening to a Spanish-language radio station in Miami when she heard hosts discussing the fake meme. "Did you see how they posed in front of that sign? They have no shame," one of the hosts said. The expert called the radio show to express her protest. Later, the host stated on air that they would like to clarify that the story about the photo is false. But that doesn't save us from the reality that Kamala is a Marxist. How genuine concerns became political weapons. In the U.S., there are about 36.2 million Latino voters, making up 14.7% of the total voter population. Many of them live in key, swing states like Nevada and Arizona. As a result, they are an important electoral group for both parties, Democrats and Republicans. They are not a homogeneous voter community, but historically, Latino immigrants have tended to vote more often for Democrats. In 2020, 44% voted for Biden, while only 16% voted for Trump. However, surveys show that leading up to this election, Republicans have strengthened their positions due to various factors: economy, immigration, and abortion rights. Many immigrants are now questioning whether the U.S. reflects their past experiences in their home countries. Experts point out that political apprehensions about socialism and communism are particularly prevalent in communities with many Cuban or Venezuelan immigrants, such as South Florida. People from these countries are especially sensitive to misinformation about communism due to their painful experiences in their homelands, from which they had to flee, explains Samantha Barrio, a Venezuelan now living in Florida and voting for Democrats. She blames right-wing Spanish-language media for using this term to scare Venezuelans, Cubans, and Nicaraguans, because communism is the main reason we left our countries, trying to escape these regimes. For some, the criticism of Democrats is based on the belief that the U.S. government has not responded firmly enough to political repression in Cuba or Venezuela. But Samantha Barrio dislikes how these absolutely justified fears are weaponized through fake claims that Kamala Harris is a communist. Evelyn Perez-Verdia agrees but simultaneously criticizes Democrats for not doing enough to address this issue. "You shouldn't mock people's fears. People have faced real danger. They came to the U.S. leaving everything behind. If they have doubts, you must answer them." Controversies fuel communist claims. Not all fake claims are aimed at the Latino electorate. Findings from the Digital Democracy Institute of America, DDIA, reveal, which monitors over 1,300 Spanish and Portuguese groups on WhatsApp and more than 200 groups on Telegram. Researchers found that since 2020, right-wing and pro-Trump influencers have become more active in spreading the fear of socialism. Joe Biden has also been accused of being a communist. But as Laura Sommer, the founder of FactCheckWado, states, journalists specializing in fact-checking have never seen such a volume of AI-generated posts and so many fabricated photos. Some of this misinformation is spread by Trump himself or his notable supporters. Elon Musk, who supported Trump as a presidential candidate, posted a fake photo of Kamala Harris dressed in a red uniform with a sickle and hammer, captioned, "Kamala promises to become a communist dictator on day one of her presidency." The post was viewed by 83.9 million social media users. A search showed that this post on Platform X became a source for disseminating that image. Meanwhile, Donald Trump shared an AI-generated photo of Harris speaking to a communist crowd. This post garnered 81.5 million views on X, although it was not the original source of the image. According to a study conducted by DEI for the BBC, images linking Kamala Harris to communism have migrated from the internet to offline. During the debates, Donald Trump called Harris and her father Marxists, and suggested that she would turn the U.S. into a Venezuela on steroids. due to her immigration policies. Within 17 hours after the debates, the search query, Marxist, in the U.S. surged by 1,000%. According to Factchequedo, the most common Spanish-language search query after the debates was, "Who was Kamala Harris's father?" At DDIA, they found that in the week following the presidential candidates' debates, two queries became particularly popular. The first concerned a fabricated document about Kamala Harris's membership in the Soviet Communist Party. It gained tremendous popularity on Meta. The other one referred to Comrade Kamala, stemming from a speech by Trump in which he referred to Harris as the Communist Comrade. BBC Verify traced the photo of the fabricated documents regarding Harris's membership in the Communist Party back to a website where anyone can create fake party documents. The membership number, stamp, and other details on Kamala Harris's party card perfectly matched the template for creating fake documents on that site. Posts that spread the fake documents have been viewed by 500,000 users since August. We are sliding into communism. The Democratic Party is not socialist. It does not support communist regimes. However, prominent Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez define their political views as democratic socialism. When Kamala Harris was a senator from California, she supported Sanders' Medicare for All bill, which aimed to create a single-payer healthcare system in the U.S. Since then, Harris has stated that she no longer supports a system that excludes private health insurance. Kamala Harris has never promoted communist policies such as abolishing or restricting private property. Kamala Harris's plan to combat rising prices has been portrayed by Spanish-language media as communist, and Musk claimed its implementation would lead to empty shelves like in Venezuela. Her proposal is for the Chamber of Commerce to check price spikes that cannot be explained by rising production costs. This is far from the price controls as they exist in Cuba and Venezuela, which have led to food shortages. However, for some voters who fled those countries, even anything that remotely resembles what they escaped from instills fear. Duke Machado, who runs a Facebook page for Latino Republicans, fears that if the Democrats win, the U.S. will be on a slippery slope to communism. If we're not careful, we will slide into Cuba and Venezuela, whose goal is to overthrow capitalism. When asked how responsible it is for social media users to spread fears that Democrats will lead the U.S. to communism, he replies, "That is not irresponsible at all. I see it as an obligation." Trump's reaction. Kamala Harris became the favorite among Democrats for the presidential nomination even before Joe Biden officially announced his withdrawal from the race. At the same time, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump stated just minutes after Biden's announcement that Harris would be an easier opponent than the sitting president. Prior to this, the New York Times, citing sources, reported that Trump's team was preparing a campaign to discredit the vice president in case she replaced Biden in the elections. So what lies ahead for Kamala Harris? Is she planning a bold move that will shock the entire country? Some claim it's just a matter of time. With every news scandal and the rising rumors, America remains on edge. Is Kamala Harris truly capable of leading? Will her hidden secrets lead to her downfall sooner than we think? Well, now you know the whole truth, or at least what they've been hiding from you. Kamala Harris is more than just a politician, she's a true enigma. But what else is she concealing? Could she become America's new Iron Lady, pulling the strings behind the scenes? Like, subscribe, and get ready for more sensational revelations.